Hello there, everyone. Ashnflash here. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Brent Waller. He is the fan designer behind the Lego Ideas Ghostbusters set, as well as the upcoming Seinfeld set releasing really soon. So, hello. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you because I've even just hearing some of the things that you do for work, I just think that's really fascinating. So if you wanted to, everyone's wondering when did you get into Lego and just about Seinfeld, where the interest come from that. So, yeah.
Lego, I was obsessed as a kid, as probably most of us were that are watching this. But I kind of grew out of it in probably, I don't know, the mid 90s. Probably around the time of Seinfeld, actually. I got into video games and basketball and girls, even though they had no interest in me. But then it wasn't till the Lego Star Wars video game, what was that, 2005 or something, or
Yeah.
2004?
Yeah.
Someone at work lent it to me. I ended up sitting there playing it and was loving it and just had to find all the collectibles and just brought back this wave of nostalgia for Lego and Star Wars as well. And then from there, I bought all the other Lego games. And then someone at work told me about the Lego Digital Designer program. So I downloaded that and started messing with that. And then that was around the time the Indiana Jones Lego came out. And I just immediately bought all of it on the first wave and then discovered the modulars. And then it was just downhill from there.
Yeah, that's how it happens. So what explain your background with the video game? That's really fascinating, I think, to some people.
So I'm a 3D environment artist. So basically, I make the environments for video games, and I've been doing that for probably 20 years now. And that started as a hobby. I was studying IT, just computer repair and network stuff
Yeah.
like that in the late 90s. And this would have been around the time of Seinfeld as well when this was happening. And then started doing that and was losing interest in studying it. So I started sort of making websites as a hobby and started doing that as a hobby. And then people started noticing stuff and I started doing that for work. And then while I was doing that for work, I was getting a bit bored of that and decided to do video games and levels for, there was a total conversion was what they called it at the time for Quake 2 called Action Quake.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I took the original Quake game and turned it into sort of an action movie. So it was all realistic weapons and guns and things. Started doing that for a bit, and then Quake 3 rolled around, and I joined a mod team called Urban Terror, which in retrospect is probably not the greatest name, but this was like 2000, 1999, that kind of era. And started doing that as a hobby and then getting noticed, and people were like, oh, have you considered doing this for a living? I was like, you can do this for a living. So I started actively applying to places and working on my portfolio. And then I got a job in 2000, I think, late 2000, around August, working on a game called Gore, which was like a multiplayer first-person shooter. And then from there, I worked on a couple more budget games and ended up working for Chrome Studios and worked on just a bunch of franchises. I did Clone Wars lightsaber duels.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Did
Remember that one.
I don't know if you remember the reboot of Spyro before
Yes.
Skylanders called A New Beginning. Movie tie-ins like Happy Feet and Guardians of Gahul and Viva Pinata Party Animals and all these sorts of
Wow. Yeah.
kids games. Moved to Sega when Chrome shut down. Worked on came on the tail end of Olympics game they were working on, and then I worked on the reboot of Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion, which was an old Sega game, Mega Drive game I think it was, or Genesis I think you call it in the US. Did like a total remake of that, and then they closed down, and then we ended up kickstarting our own company here in Brisbane in 2013 to make a spiritual successor to a game from the 90s called Syndicate. And we've been hanging around since. We made Satellite Rain, which was the first game, and Windbound, which came out last year, which is like a survival, crafting, boat faring, Zelda-ish kind of game.
Yeah, that's a lot then.
And while I was making games, I started getting into Lego as a hobby. And you can
That's
see
a
where
good
that's going.
distraction, yeah. Well, the first thing that I want to ask, because it's kind of interesting that the two ideas projects that you've had that are just huge parts of pop culture both take place in New York. So have you ever seen the fire station? Have you ever seen the cafe or
Never been.
nothing?
I'd love to go. I'd love to do a whole tour of, Seinfeld and Ghostbuster locations.
Yeah. I think the question that everyone was wondering was there anything in the set during this whole process, because I got to interview the Winnie the Pooh designer, and that was just eye-opening. I had no idea how involved that you guys really were with the process. So Was there anything that was cut from the final project that you guys were kind of pushing for? Or?
There's nothing major that was cut. Like one of the suggestions I had early on, it was never ever contemplated as far as I know, but because I was building this a version of the restaurant from Seinfeld myself just for fun after it got approved. And I thought, when you've got the original Ghostbusters set, had like a little display stand for all the minifigs to stand on.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe instead of doing that, you could just do the little diner table with them sort of sitting around it, as that's your way of displaying them outside of the set. But then they came back, Cesar Soares, who's the designer of the set at Lego, he came back and showed me the little stage with Jerry's stand-up comedy stage. And I loved that. That was a great little side thing. And I think that was a great bonus, because I think I like it when the ideas projects go beyond the original idea creators, fan designers concept, and add something a little bit extra and something a bit surprising. And I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, just because they did that extra little thing, I was curious if it was ever thought about to do the cafe, but that's interesting. Yeah.
And as for the process, it's completely different. I think I've mentioned this before in other places. When I did Ghostbusters, it was still when it was Lego Cuso, and mine was the first to be labeled under the ideas. So I submitted under Cuso.
Okay.
And it was approved, and then the day after I found out it was announced, I had a call with Lego, and they showed me the final box art and the final design, and there was no avenue for input at there because it was already in production as far as I was aware. And back then it's completely different. So it's still a learning experience. There wasn't the sort of design process they've got now, where Ben, who did Winnie the Pooh, would have experienced as well, where I've had multiple calls with them for Seinfeld. I've had multiple avenues for input along the way. I've suggested things that I've got put in that I didn't have in my original concept. And I pushed for certain details that I really wanted in there a few times and got them in there. So this really is a collaborative process. And this is not a slight on the old team who did Ghostbusters, because that's just the way it was back then. It wasn't as refined, and it wasn't even ideas at that stage. It's just the way they've kind of refined the process and helped include the designers a lot more now.
Yeah, that's incredible. That makes it even better than in my mind to hear like how far they've come since then. That's really great. What do you have a favorite part of the set that the final product, I guess?
I mean, I'm quite happy the layout of the walls is almost precisely what I had, which I was surprised to see. I expected there to be some change in the layout a little bit, just because I built it completely digital on Mecha Bricks when I submitted it. I didn't make it physically until after it was approved. So I've got one sitting in front of me, my own version with the wrong colors and all sorts of things. And it seems to be more or less exactly the same wall layout as what the final set turned out to be. All the details inside are all new and different, and a lot more detailed than what I did.
A lot more references. I went back and looked at. Yeah.
We basically had I think it was one of the early calls. We basically sat down and said, "What else can we squeeze into this set?" And I came up with the Commando 8 air conditioner, and we got that in, and they've snuck in all sorts of little things all over the place that I didn't think of, like the prognosis negative tape and the statue on the cabinet, which I thought at first was Superman, but it turns out it's from the episode called The Statue.
The Statue, yeah. I had some people point that out.
That I didn't even know, because I didn't even put it in. I was like, is it Superman or is it the statue? And I had asked the designer, Caesar, if it was the statue or Superman.
How did that go about with Superman? Because you got to include it. He loves Superman. Was there any talk of it not making it in because of...
Well, I purposely didn't put it in the ideas project because I thought there might be a conflict there of IPs.
We can't do
the approval process.
DC specifically,
Yeah, but it turns out, I didn't know this, but it turns out Warner Brothers owns the Seinfeld license anyway.
Okay.
So I wasn't really privy to the conversations about how that came about for approval, but it got approved somehow and it seemed to be no issue.
Yeah, the one thing that I wanted to come out of it was just some reference to it, so that's really great. This is from Falcon, and he asks, how did you guys go about deciding which characters got new pieces or new molds? Because I'm assuming they're referencing to Kramer. Why didn't Kramer get one as opposed to Jerry getting one? Was there any talk about that?
I basically had no input on that to say this should be a new mold. It was basically, they came back and said, hey, we're doing a new mold for Jerry's hair. I was like, oh, great. I guess it's probably a number crunching thing for them. If they figure they can sell X amount of units, then it's worth investing into a new hairpiece or a new part. but there's nothing on my side to say I want this and I can get this and we need to have this. It was all them.
Yeah, even with like the projects, we can't submit new pieces or anything. So yeah,
Yeah, and
I
think that's
like the hair that you used though, the Doctor Who Peter Venkman one. I think that worked well.
yeah. I think everyone will like the new mullet piece for Cherry.
Yeah, people are already coming up with a ton of uses for that. In
Yeah, I want to use it for rigs from Lethal Weapon. I don't know if you've seen that. Mel Gibson's character from Lethal Weapon.
Oh yeah. Someone said Billy from Stranger Things. So
Oh yeah.
The next question is from Benji. Last name was wondering, as a lot of people like, were you shocked by the 2x2 portrait of George's timeless art of seduction there? That made it in.
I did a version of that in Mecha Bricks. So if anyone wants it as a wallpaper, you can just look at my Instagram. You can get a version of it. I did a version of that, and I didn't know whether that would be pushing the envelope a little bit. And I didn't really ask for it to be in the set. It just, the first time they showed me what the sticker sheet's going to look like, it was there. And I was like, great, that's awesome.
Was anyone from the show, do you know if anyone was talked to at all from the show about the set being made? Because I'm sure you saw Jason Alexander's
I saw
response.
That
Plays George.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, I hope it'd be nice to know that
they're happy.
Jerry and all the actors and actresses saw my work before it was approved, but I honestly don't know. Like, it's all handled by, I think, Castle Rock is like the production studio underneath Warner Brothers or something, and that's all I heard about. There was just talks between going on. Like, once it's designed, it has to go through an approval process on their side. Whether that includes the actors and actresses, I have no idea.
Lastly, a lot of people were wondering, what do you have in the works? Because right now, I looked at, if you haven't seen it yet, you should look up his ideas portfolio, because it's quite massive, and how many projects you've got to 10K. But you've got one going right now that you're trying to get to 10K.
Yeah, I've got the Dark Crystal up there at the moment, but I don't think that's going to get to 10,000, to be honest. I did that before the show came out, the
reboot, or
the reboot.
Yeah,
but it didn't quite take off, and it's been cancelled. The second season's been cancelled, so even if it managed to get to 10,000, which I don't think it will, I don't think they'd approve it.
Well, you have X-Files in review.
And, X-Files in review. I don't think that'll get approved either. I'd love it too, because I loved X-Files, and I still use the username Wetwired from one of those episodes to this day. But I'm not sure if that's really. I think they did a few new seasons of that a couple of years ago, and it didn't really take off.
Well, I think you gotta try to be the first to 3. That should be a goal.
I'd love to get something original. I've got one idea for something original that I really want to push. It's kind of a similar vein to that calendar I did, but not quite.
I was shocked that didn't get accepted. That was
that's the thing. Like,
amazing.
You cannot guess what. I thought Seinfeld would never get approved. I was like, that's never going to happen. They're never going to approve it. And I was shocked to find it was. And I thought the calendar was a shoo-in. I was like, surely this is the perfect thing, something unique and original. And it's kind of the way I see ideas is they seem to approve things that appeal to people who aren't into Lego, to draw them into Lego. So, for example, this is me guessing. This is nothing behind the scenes information from Lego. Is like someone who buys Seinfeld, for example, who's not into Lego. If 10 people buy Seinfeld and one of them goes on to buy another set, whether it's Friends or something else, it's just completely increasing their market. So there's more people to buy Lego, and then they can make more variety of sets, and it's just better for them.
No, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, especially with, I've said this in the videos. It's just like Seinfeld paved the way for sitcoms, and then Friends, I think, is just paving the way for ideas. Like, it's just, I think it's revolutionized it in terms of picking these big things like Seinfeld to bring in the non-fans. Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it.
From this is all anecdotal evidence, but from what I've heard, that Friends set has sold exceptionally well, like one of the best-selling Lego sets ever.
It was never in stock, so I really hope. And with the apartments, I think it's a little more expensive, so it's harder to justify. But I really hope, and I can see it happening with Seinfeld, I think, for sure. And even with the value of Seinfeld, I was shocked because I didn't have the prices when I got it, and I'm like, this has flooring, like it's completely tiled. I'm like, this set's gonna be really expensive, but it's really good value. So I'm
I was
so excited.
I was really glad to see the flooring got in, because I thought that really helped push it above just a little Lego diorama. It was more of
Yeah.
a replication of the actual apartment, which I
Mm-hmm.
used when I was building it myself. I used for reference a scale model you can buy of Jerry's apartment online. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's like
saw that. Yeah.
$500. I never bought it. I just used photos of it. And it's apparently an accurate representation of the set. So I was like, I'll just copy that exactly as much as I can in Lego form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would have done that 5 years ago when I made my original submission. So yeah. Anyways, thank you for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. It's been fun chatting about this and hearing more from someone who's been around the block since Kuso. Like that's even crazier to me to hear how far they've come. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I am old, so.
But yeah, thanks.
All right, thanks for having me.
So I'm just wrapping things up here. I didn't do this with him, but you can check him out linked down below. He has Twitch and Instagram and Twitter. You could check all that out as well as his website. And again, thank you so much to Brent Waller for coming on and doing this. It saved me a lot of paperwork not doing this through LAN. So anyways, and thank you all, those of you who submitted your questions. I read through them all. I actually had to cut out a few questions just because they were a little more geared towards the design of it. So I just kept some of like the interesting conversations and things that we had from the interview. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. And I hope you all have a great day. I will see you all in the next one.